Hello everyone and welcome back. I've got my book and I've got my therapy friends with me. So without further ado, shall we begin? If you remember, we just talked about ECT and we all learnt something. Well, I hope you did, because I did. And now we have more reading. So, shall we? Periodic blocking. Let's get this camera right. That's better. Periodic blocking out in the manic depressive personality. A person with a constant parent, a constant child, or a constant adult will exclude the other two parts of the personality. Responds to events around him in a fairly fixed and predictable way. His mood remains constant too. A person with a constant parent, a constant child, or a constant adult, which exclude the other two parts of the personality, responds to events around him in a fairly fixed and predictable way. Wait, did I just... I did. I'm having a moment. Let's just start this whole sentence again, alright? This whole chapter, alright? So, take 2. A person with a constant parent, a constant child, or a constant adult will exclude the other two parts of the personality. They respond to events around them in a fairly fixed and predictable way. The mood will remain constant too. Most of us have mood changes as each part of our PAC makes its contribution to our thinking and behaviour. Some days we feel okay, and some we don't. Usually if we try, we can discover the reason why we are up or down. Sometimes the reasons are elusive or do not seem to be related to any specific signal in the present. Many people experience mood changes along with the change of seasons. The holiday seasons frequently produce depression, as is clearly illustrated by sharply increased hospital admissions at Christmas. Yeah, that's true. Really is, sadly. The coming of the autumn season produces elation for many people as the old back-to-school tapes replay, and we smell again the exciting odours of pencil boxes, oiled floors, and crayons. These same smells may produce depression in others, depending on what happened in those early school years. Many old recordings we play to produce the highs and lows we all experience. Though elusive, these reasons for mood changes can usually be uncovered with a little inquiry by the adult. Most of us ride out the sad feelings and enjoy the good, because the adult remains in charge and keeps our behaviour appropriate. There is a condition in which these mood changes are extreme and produce exaggerated behaviour over which the adult has no control. The adult not only is unable to control behaviour, it is also unable to discover the cause of the mood change. This condition is found in the manic depressive personality. A manic depressive person periodically undergoes severe and unexplainable shifts in mood. In the manic or high phase, he feels euphoric, on top of the world, and full of energy. He may be talkative and aggressive. It is as if his child is running away with him. The parent does not seem to have a itchy nose. Let's start that sentence again. The parent does not seem to have a restrictive influence in the phase, and the person feels he can do no wrong. He jumps from one object to another, spending his elation in one activity, aiming to drop it for another, even more risky joy, as if he is in a sense testing how far he can go in his pleasure binge. The problem is that although he feels great, his adult is impaired or contaminated, and his behaviour is not realistic. He may become obnoxious to others, and in the extreme he may have to be restrained or hospitalised. Eventually he comes down and resumes what seems to be a stale period which may continue for a long time. During this time, his adult is in control of his behaviour, which appears to be realistic and appropriate. Are you keeping up, people? Because if you're not, you can replay this video as many times as you like, provided you have an internet connection, of course. Okay. Then, for no reason of which he is aware, he sinks into a period of extreme depression. Starting to feel targeted is Slightly. Slightly, of course. The OK has disappeared as mysteriously as it appeared. Life seems empty, his energy is gone, and his parent has returned with stored up criticisms and old oppressions. Again, the adult is impaired and the person is immobilized in his depression. I've actually felt like this many times. Before the flog days, I've had periods of depression still. Well, I don't know if I can really call it depression because it's not been officially diagnosed. But I've had depression-like things and feelings and symptoms and stuff like that. And I sometimes wonder. But I'm feeling better these days. My bad spells are not as bad and they're not as long either. Which is nice. Now, where was I? Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't know I read that bit. Excuse me, people. The manic depressive differs from others who experience ordinary everyday highs and lows by the fact that these mood shifts seem to be unexplainable. Also, these mood shifts are periodical and recurring. To understand what is operating in the manic depressive cycles, it is essential to understand that both the omnipotence of the manic phase and the unworthiness of the depressive phase are feelings which are recorded in the child. Both are responses to archaic recordings in the parent. In either phase, the internal dialogue is parent-child. In the depressive stage, the parent is beating on the child, and in the manic stage, the parent is applauding. As in the analysis of all feelings, it is essential to ask, what was the original transaction? In a manic depressive personality, we frequently find a strong, if not overbearing parent, which contains contradictory commands and permissions recorded very early, probably on the basis of Piaget's observations during the first 2 years of life, when the adult in the little person is first engaged in working out a system of cause and effect. At this crucial time, if there are overwhelming inconsistencies and contradictions, the child may give up on an intellectual elaboration of the structure of causality. It doesn't make sense any way I'd look at it, and may instead come to regard what happens to him as a matter of time instead of the relationship of objects and events. The manic depressive individual cannot report what precipitated either as high or as low, as was the case in the beginning. Its mood is as unpredictable now as it was then, because the punishing and praising parents were unpredictable. Frieda von Reichmann noted that a person who shows manic and depressive swings was, as a rule, brought up under the shadow of great inconsistency. The adult in the little person could not make sense of the periodic... Sorry, turned 2 pages by mistake there. So let's go... Start the sentence again. The adult in the little person could not make sense of the periodic changes in his parents, so the adult abdicated, even with a final attempt at formulating a position. I'm not okay, and I'm not so sure about you either. The child did come to recognise, however, that it's about time for something to happen, or all good things must come to an end. They did then, they will now. The fact that there were good things, very good things, which would play in the manic phase, would seem to indicate that the parent, usually mother since she was the most influential person in the first 2 years of life, did, in fact, provide great stroking and approval in addition to crushing rejection. Her response to the child was not primarily related to what the child did, but to her own shifts in mood or dramatic changes in personality. Consider how difficult it is for a 2-year-old boy to understand what is going on when mother shifts periodically and totally from one kind of a person to another kind of person. Another reasons can account for this kind of change. One is alcoholism. Mother is high. She cuddles and strokes him and tickles him until he screams. She plays tag with him around a table. She throws him in the air. She claps her hands and laughs hysterically as he swings the cat by the tail. I don't think this needs a saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Please do not, for the love of God, swing a cat by the tail. It's extremely cruel. I'm pretty certain it causes a crap ton of trauma for the poor creature. And it's not nice. I mean, would you want someone to swing you about by the tail if you had one? Think about it. You know I'm right. Life is glorious. Then mother passes out. For hours the little boy is abandoned. He is hungry. He is empty. She is gone. The stroking is gone. How can he get it back? What happened? He doesn't know. Later she wakes up sick. She can't stand the sight of him. She pushes him away. He cries and comes to her again. She hits him. What happened? What did he do? It had felt so good. Now it's so bad. He screams himself to sleep. Tomorrow comes. Mother is high again. Here we go. Last night it was bad. Now it's good again. And of course it will get bad again. I don't know why, but in time, everything will change. It's terribly good and terribly bad. Terrible describes both states because of the experienced reality that change will come suddenly, totally, and unpredictably. I think there's a lesson here, people. If you have a child, don't take things that intoxicate you, such as alcohol, marijuana even. Just don't. Of course, alcohol and marijuana are fine overall, but it's got to be done in moderation, people. Moderation is the key here. And by that I mean just do little bits and don't take enough of any substance really that will alter your brain and how you act. Because then you end up in a situation like this woman here, who seems to really hate her son, and the only time she can tolerate him is when she's drunk or high, as the book says. The book mentions alcohol probably because it's legal, and just says high just because, you know. Other conditions in the parents produce these kind of shifts: drug addiction, religiosity, or psychosis. Or mother may have had a manic depressive personality, responding not to alcohol but to old recordings, which she is now reproducing in a youngster. Manic depression runs in families. It is easy to see how it is transmitted. Confusing settings such as these, the child's not okay was magnified. Possible salvation was seen in trying to placate the parent. I can be okay if, but the if kept changing. Last night when I swung the cat by the tail, again, for the love of God, please do not do that. Not to a cat or any creature, really. If it has a tail, people, please do not grab it and try and swing it by the tail, alright? It's seriously messed up. Last night when I swung the cat by the tail, she smiled and hugged me. This morning I did it again and she beat me. Of course, I'm not advocating violence here, but if you know someone who does do that or will try to do that, there are many acceptable methods to stop that. I'm not advocating violence, of course, but you know. As the child grows older, these kind of inconsistent responses are reinforced. The child is severely punished for using bad words, but that night he hears his drunken father regale the boys at the poker party with tales of his boy's four-letter prowess, finally calling on the youngster, insisting against the prime judge to tell Uncle Harry the joke you told. The manic depressive personality thus can be seen as a person whose developing adult was shut out of the early process of constructing a system of cause and effect with relation to parental approval or rebuke. Since in the early years disapproval or rebuke was demonstrated most frequently by all gratifications or denials, the mood swings of the manic depressive grown up are related to the life is rich feeling of the manic phase and the life is empty feeling of the depressive phase. As in the treatment of all emotional problems, it is necessary to engage the adult in the examination of feelings, to encourage the adult to ask why. The greatest difficulty in treating the manic depressive personality is that the greatest difficulty in treating the manic depressive personality is that very early the child gave up asking why. In fact, they decided to never ask again. From Reichman notes that manic depressives have a lack of ability for correct observations, a lack of interest, early training, and talent for introspective observation and understanding. These observable traits are products of the early decision. Treatment consists in returning the adult to his once abdicated executive position with regard to causality. Since the boundary is broken down between adult and child, and the person is overwhelmed by feelings, it is often necessary to give the patient assistance through the administration of either tranquilizing or antidepressant drugs, or electric shock therapy, otherwise known as ECT. Now, we did go through electric shock therapy last night. I'm not going to go through it again. Again, it's not for me to say, since I'm not a qualified person in this field, but I don't think electricity can be good. I really don't see it. But if there is someone who does work in therapy would like to tell me otherwise, then please do so. I will read what you write. Once a child is calmed, the adult begins to function and can be helped to uncover the reasons for his unexplainable mood shifts. In the beginning, the child was at the mercy of them. Now the person can come to recognize that what he does can determine praise or rebuke. The praise or rebuke he receives today may not be as intense as that which he received in childhood. Praise may not produce the manic high or rebuke the depressive low, but he is free of the extreme anxiety of unpredictability, which is present even in the manic phase. And as you can tell by the time, we are coming to an end of this video tonight. Hope you learned something. I know I did. I also felt fairly targeted as well. Once again, I will say, please do not swing any animal by the tail, okay? Just don't, okay, please. I like to think that people, my followers, or those of you who are joining this journey, are kind and compassionate people to all living creatures, not just humans. So, I'm going to leave you now, and until I hope each and every single one of you takes care of yourself. I hope that you're all doing well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.